Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world. So, I just so choked with emotion. The verdict is in the Preston Davey trial, or in the trial of the monster dads, Varley and GF. Guilty. And it's like part of me just feels exuberant, that they're guilty, that the right verdict has been found. We've waited a little while for this verdict. The jury went out for deliberation on Thursday. So, a couple of hours Thursday, no verdict. All day Friday, no verdict. The jury have gone home over the weekend. Had time to think, I suppose. I don't know what the delay was. And today they met again up to lunchtime, no verdict. And apparently it was said in the courtroom, like on Friday, there was no verdict by 3:30, 4 o'clock, let me see, 4:30. The jury would be discharged. It's possible. You know, that we may have had to wait till tomorrow. Yeah, the jury had till 4:30 UK time to come to a decision. And we weren't sure, were we, whether they would today. And tomorrow is Preston's birthday. It would have been his 4th birthday. And, he should have been, whoever he was in his care, whoever's care he was in, should have been planning a birthday for him. A birthday party would have been old enough to understand it was his birthday, to enjoy his party, to enjoy his presents, etc. Whatever, normal people do for their children on their 4th birthday. But of course, Preston is not here. He won't be celebrating his birthday. But we were sort of talking about it, weren't we, and thinking that maybe it'd be sort of poetic justice, at least, that the verdict came in on his birthday. But anyway, he's in, and they're guilty. They're guilty on all charges. And I feel sort of, God knows how the family feel, because personally, we've followed this for quite a while now, quite a few weeks. It's like part of you is exuberant. You feel like you should be cracking open the champagne or something, that they have been found guilty, but doesn't bring that little baby back, does it? Doesn't take away from what happened to this beautiful boy. Let's have a look at him. It's sort of a sort of bittersweet, really, I suppose. But they're guilty of all charges. So Varley has been found guilty of murder. So, I wonder if there was some discussion whether it should be murder or manslaughter, whether it should just be Varley, or was John GF just as liable. Varley's defence really seemed to be just that he was an immature prick who didn't know how to look after a baby. Didn't mean him any harm. He was just a clumsy baby. Didn't mean him any harm. there's just, all those bruises. Just didn't know how they happened. So yeah, didn't know why he spun him so fast on the park thing, so that Preston practically went unconscious. Doesn't know why he took a video of him doing a poo in the bath. Doesn't know why he took all those pictures of him with the genitalia. He virtually accused the police of being PDFs when he was being interviewed, saying, "Oh, I'm not as obsessed about his genitals as you are." That's what he said to the policeman. So that was him. Wonder what his mum thinks of him now. Wonder what you remember him screaming for his mum when he took Preston's lifeless body to the hospital. He was screaming for his mum. Well, I'll tell you what, his mum won't be able to help him now, because when he gets sentenced, God knows what the sentence will be. I hope it's a long, long sentence. So this is murder he's been found guilty of, and all the other charges, taking indecent images of a child, etc. He's going to need his mum where he's going. Nobody's going to be sympathetic towards him. And then the other twonk, basically his defence was he didn't know. He didn't know what was happening, even though he got all these videos and photos from Varley. He didn't know. He didn't have a clue. Doesn't know why his SEMEN was found in Preston's cot. He was making a roast dinner. It was nothing to do with him. Anyway, he's guilty as well of charge. He's not been charged with murder, but he's been found guilty of sex, exploitation of a child, etc. Anyway, I'm going to read it all out to you. But listen, I just want to say a very quick thank you to all of you who've, followed this trial with me for quite a few weeks now. And it has been harrowing. It is a harrowing case. It's unbelievable, isn't it? I think as human beings, and many of us are parents ourselves, you cannot believe the depth of depravity for a person to look at this beautiful little boy and only think of sex or abuse or leave him, in a bath for 14 minutes on his own, even though he was crying, whimpering. We can't believe it, can we? Any normal person cannot wrap their head around what these monsters did to this 13, when they first got him in their care, he was 9 months old. 9 months old. And he was a lovely, happy, bouncy baby with no problems, no seizures. Yeah, he had a little bit of, he wasn't sleeping brilliantly. Lots of, it's not unusual for a baby, is it? He had a reflux, he could be sick sometimes. But as soon as he was with this couple, this horrible, horrible, horrible couple, we can't find enough adjectives to describe these monsters, monster dads. But they weren't dads. They only had him for 4 months. 4 months, 40 injuries, broken arm, bruising to the back of the throat, bladder injuries, linear bruises thought to be slaps, bite mark on the buttocks, just clusters of bruises on this poor little baby. And all the shite that they came out with to try and make excuses for it. Blaming other people, trying to blame the foster mum, talking about the free willy time. That was the reason they were showing his genitals all the time, because the foster mum said, you should give him free willy time. A horrible, horrible people. under the veneer of respectability. How were they ever allowed to adopt this baby? They both admitted we've got no experience with babies. Don't know what, no, they didn't know how to look after a baby. They said it themselves, but they were allowed to take this boy. There would have been so many other families out there that would have loved to have adopted Preston and would have, given him a loving home. And they ended up with these twins. So I don't know if you have signed the petition for the investigation of social services, but now even more than ever, we know that social services need to be investigated. How were these men who knew nothing about babies by their own admission allowed to adopt Preston? Is this a case of trying to tick the boxes for diversity because it was a gay couple? Did Oldham Council Social Services want to say, oh yeah, we've got a gay couple who've adopted this child? Is that what it was? Because I can't see. It's not because they're gay. I don't give a shit if they're gay or not. But to me, it's like when you're trying to adopt a baby, what matters is how much experience you have. How good a parent will you be? Especially for a baby, because babies can't. Preston could not tell people what was happening to him. He couldn't tell his grandma. What did she think of it? Vally's mum, I wonder. He couldn't tell his grandma, please, grandma, don't send me home because this man is abusing me. He couldn't say that. He was completely defenseless. But these men were allowed to have him, to adopt him, even though they had no experience with babies. But that's just wrong, full stop, isn't it? Ooh. Hi, Louise. Hi, Junior. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, the next thing, Michelle, is going to be the sentence. They're so good that he's been found guilty of murder. He's got to get a long sentence for the murder of a baby and for the other offences for Varley. So John G, he hasn't, GF, he wasn't accused of murder. He was accused of allowing the death of a child and also the SEX charges. So he has been found guilty of all those. So he's still got to get a long sentence, surely. Anyway, let's have a look. I don't know when the sentencing will be. Oof. It's like, isn't it? It's like a relief, and you feel like you should be happy, but you can't be happy because this baby is dead. There's no bringing this baby back, is there? So it's good, but it's still so sad, so sad. Should never ever have come to this, should it? Anyway, let's have a look what they've got to say on Sky News. Well, I hope we won't have to wait months, Michelle. Do you think we will? I don't know what the normal thing is in the UK. Sometimes you do have to wait quite a long time. But the thing is, in the meantime, so these men, Varley and GF, they're going to prison. And that won't be an easy experience for them, will it? because men who do things like this to babies, they don't have a good time in prison, do they? Oh, Valley fruit, they're good. Oh my God, don't get me started. Oh, you can imagine Varley, he'd be as dramatic as anything. He won't be able to believe it. Oh, I want my mom, I want my mom. I'll tell you what, if that was my son, if that thing was my son, and what could you do? You couldn't forgive him. I know you have to love your children no matter what they do. But that was Preston's grandma. You know, Jamie Varley's mum that he's always crying for is a great big bloody man baby. She was the grandma as well. There'll be mental health reports, I expect. Oh, Louise, thank you so much. Very kind. Thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. Yeah, there'll be mental health reports. Oh, he's already said he's dyslexic. Just wait for him to have ADHD or autism or, some other crappy reason to why he's actually a piece of shit. Because, that's bound to come out, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Louise. Right, let's get to Sky News. God, I'm sort of got this such conflicted emotions. I'm like really happy in one way, and then the other side of me is just thinking about that beautiful baby. I don't know about you, but I would love to. You look at Preston, you'd love to have been able to adopt him. He's just so bubbly, his beautiful smile. That's what he was like when he went to live with these two twonks. And within 4 months, he was dead. Not only was dead, but he'd sustained all those injuries and the sex abuse that he sustained. So, I've got this sort of simmering, I don't know about you, I expect you feel the same as me. It's like a combination of absolute exuberance that they've been found guilty, combined with the sadness, of what happened to him and what he went through. At least he's not in any pain and suffering anymore. And, justice, it is important. It does feel good that on this, there's no doubt that, you get your comeuppance in the next world. I believe that 100%. So these twonks, they're going to get it in this world. They've got their sort of karma, if you like, or the right verdict here in this world. They've got to worry about the next world as well. If they manage to survive in prison, because they'll be targets. They'll be like Ian Huntley, like the guy from the Prophets, was it the Lost Prophets? That can't remember what his name is, but it's good that I can't remember his name. The other baby, Rapist, he was murdered in prison. You can't feel sorry for him. I don't believe in the death penalty, but it's, to me, the death penalty is just another way of being barbaric. But in cases like this, you really, even for someone like me who does not believe in the death penalty, there's sort of another part of you that thinks, yeah, they do deserve it. But you know what they deserve is to suffer. They deserve to look over their shoulders for the rest of their lives, like Ian Huntley had to do, till finally prison justice did catch up with Ian Huntley. There's lots of different people that have had to, over the years, different cases. Jeffrey Dahmer, he's another one, because he did kill children as well. A lot of his victims were minors. But a baby baby, there's got to be a special place in heaven that kills vulnerable. You know, you can't get any more vulnerable than a baby, can you? Ian Watkins, that's it, Michelle. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Ian Watkins. You know, it's hard to feel sorry for them, isn't it? And you know that I do feel sorry for their families, because if you, God forbid, or John GF's mum, you or dad or whatever, you've got to live with the fact that you've brought into the world someone who would do that to a baby. That's hard to live with. That's hard to live with. So I do feel for them. You know, providing they didn't cover up for them or try and help them in any way. I do feel for them. I do feel for them. But mostly, of course, I feel for Preston's foster mum, who did have him for a while and will have got, you know, attached to him, etc. I feel for his biological mum. We're going to find out, aren't we, about his biological mum. Is it true that she got into trouble when she was just a teenager? Did something, is she that woman that did something quite awful when she was 13, 14? Should that be held again? You know, that's a whole new, whole different video, a whole different discussion. Oh, and I'll tell you what I was watching just earlier before I came up, before I saw that the verdict was in and it was guilty. I was watching a documentary about Jamie Bulger. And of course, that's a case, isn't it, where those two young boys, Venables and the other one, can't even remember his name, they were held in, of course, held in prison until they got to a certain age, and then they were released from prison and given new identities. And one of them, not Venables, the other one, he has had to go back to prison twice, I think, because he kept breaking, you know, he was still having child porn on his, he was caught with child P on his devices, etc. And he's still in prison, I think. He keeps applying for parole, but he'll get it in the end. Because when they actually committed that terrible crime of abducting Jamie Bulger when he was 2 years old, abducting him, tortured him, murdered him. You know, my own personal feeling is when children commit such terrible crimes, you just can't believe that they're not just bad inside, because, you know, kids do things. Not only teenagers, but younger kids. Maybe they had a terrible upbringing. I don't know. I've known lots of children who had terrible upbringings. They didn't end up doing things like that. What they did to Jamie Bulger was so terrible, wasn't it? But did you know, and I hadn't realised, but that trial of Jamie Bulger and not Jamie Bulger, the other killer, and John Venables, was also held in Preston Crown Court. So Preston Crown Court, where Preston's dad's trial has been held, where the Nicola Bulley inquest was held, where Jay Slater's inquest was held, all at the Preston Crown Court. Anyway, I didn't realise that. I don't know if you did. It was the same place because, of course, Jamie Bulger was snatched in Bootle, I think it was, wasn't it, in Liverpool? So why was it held at the Preston Crown Court? Maybe it's because it's a big court and it can hold a lot of people. I don't know. But I thought, oh my God, the Preston Crown Court again. Anyway, let's have a look at what Sky News have got to say. There'll be also. So now I expect it'll be all over the news? Found guilty over the death of their adopted baby. God, you know what? I hope they investigate into the social services. How did these men end up with this baby? How? So, high school teacher Jamie Varley, 37, has been found guilty of the murder of adopted 13-month-old Preston Davey. And his partner, John McGowan Fazakali, 32, has been convicted of allowing the death of the child. Oh, it keeps updating. Hang on. It's updated. So here he is. Adorable baby. Laughing and smiling. This is seriously the worst case I've ever covered. So, trigger warning, yeah, this story contains details some readers might find distressing. I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't find these details distressing, there's something wrong with you, isn't there? So the court heard that Preston, a sweet and bubbly baby, was admitted to hospital 3 times in 4 months after he was adopted by the couple in April 2023. And he died at Blackpool Victoria Hospital on 27th of July, having suffered a collapse and a cardiac arrest. Varley told medical staff he had left the child in the bath for 2 or 3 minutes and returned to find him submerged. So remember that crap he came out with. So, like you do. So he said he'd put Preston in the bath, in his bath seat, a 13-month-old baby alone in a bath, and then he went and had a shower, but he knew he'd only be quick because he was only conditioning his hair. What a twat. Sorry, shouldn't swear. What a twonk. So, yeah, I had a shower. It was only a quick shower because I was only conditioning my hair. Left in a different bathroom, not as if he had a shower and he could see Preston from where he was having a shower. That's what you would do, isn't it? If you were going to do that at all. I mean, you wouldn't leave a baby in the bath on its own, but if you did, you would be right there. If the shower was right next to the bath and he just put him there and then was watching him all the time. But no, he didn't. He went out of the room, didn't he? To condition his hair, because of course his hair is so important, much more important than Preston. That's what he said to the hospital staff, wasn't it? But a post-mortem examination ruled out drowning and found multiple non-accidental internal and external injuries and a cause of death to be acute upper airways obstruction by either smothering or an object or objects inserted into his mouth. So, do you know what? You have to imagine. You can just imagine what happened. Hi, Sean. Yes, very good news. Guilty on all counts, both of them. Now, I did say, didn't I, the longer it goes sometimes, it's better for a guilty verdict. I think probably they were maybe debating whether it should be murder or manslaughter. Hi, Minnie Love Dove. Yeah, of course, exactly. He didn't have to condition his hair at that moment, did he? Why couldn't he wait for John to come home? John was on his way home, apparently. What? I mean, you're just not going to think, I've got to condition my hair, so I know what I'll do. I'll put the baby in the bath while I just condition my hair. Or, like I was saying earlier, what you do, if I had to, maybe, I don't know, if you were going out or whatever you were doing, so you had to wash your hair. So you take the baby in with you into the bathroom, in his child seat or in whatever, you normally have things you can secure him to. Take him in the bathroom with you while you're washing your hair. You watch him every second, where you can see him. You don't leave him in another room. I mean, it's the most ridiculous. It's the most ridiculous. How apart from anything, he's a thicko as well. He's a thicko because he thought people would fall for that. The media, so Michelle says, the media are saying he vomited in the dock after the guilty verdict. Oh, he's upset. It's all about vomit, isn't he? Well, he is a piece of vomit himself, isn't he? He is nothing more than a piece of vomit himself. So the other person that I'm really angry with, apart from obviously the two defendants, is the defence forensic scientist. I hope he sleeps well tonight now. So they trolled out the defence forensic scientist. They found someone who would say, oh yeah, it may have been sex abuse, or it may have been that, but it could have been something else. How you sleep at night, how do you sleep at night? Saying that, trying to get these men found innocent. I know defence is going to defend. Everyone's, I've heard it till I'm blue in the face. Everyone's innocent till proven guilty. Everyone's entitled to a defence. That's the bedrock of our democratic society. Innocent till proven guilty. You're entitled to a defence. But I don't care what anyone says, how these defence people sleep at night, knowing that this is a baby who died. They've seen the videos. They know they knew they was guilty as hell. Now I know they've got to put up a defence. Honestly, I do understand it, but what I don't understand is how they can do it. A post-mortem examination ruled out drowning and found multiple non-accidental 40 injuries, remember, internal and external injuries, and the cause of death to be acute upper airways obstruction by either smothering or an object or objects inserted into his mouth. Prosecutors told the court the child was routinely ill-treated, had indecent images and videos taken of him, and was sex abused and physically assaulted during the 4 months he spent with the couple. Now, if Preston hadn't have died, he'd just probably still be there enduring this abuse, wouldn't he? Because he'd only be 4. How would he tell people about it even now? Blessed little boy. Beautiful little boy. So there's the 2 twonks with the artist impression that looks nothing like him. So let's go through the charges. So following an 8-week trial, we started following it. I didn't start following it right at the beginning. I think it was about 3 weeks in when we started following it daily. A jury spent around 14 hours considering verdicts. Now, that doesn't seem like long, is it, when you think that they went out on Thursday for deliberation? But, of course, they only had an hour or so, or a couple of hours on Thursday. When we say, they did all day on Friday considering their verdicts, they're short days, aren't they? Because they get breaks, they get their lunch. They don't start till 10:30 or something. They finish at 4:30, let's say. So it's not like a day like an 8-hour day. So Varley was found guilty of a series of charges. Murder. 2 counts of assault by penetration. 5 counts of cruelty to a child. Grievous bodily harm. SEX assault of a child. 13 counts of taking indecent photos or videos of a child, 1 of distributing an indecent photo of a child to his co-accused, and 1 of making an indecent photo. So there are all these charges, and he has been found guilty of all charges. Guilty of all charges. GF was found guilty of allowing the death of a child, 2 counts of child cruelty, and 1 count of sex assault of a child. So let's not forget either, this is what they've been found guilty of. There's no way there was only 1 count of sex assault, but that's the only one that there was the photo of poor little Preston hanging over the cot with blue lips and dribble coming out of his mouth. So you can bet that although that's all he's been found guilty of, there will be more. So they betrayed him. The investigator, now I just want to say a little prayer, send out some positivity, some love to the jury and the judge and the detectives, all the people that have had to, follow this investigation. And like this detective says, it was harrowing. These are, we can criticize the police but you know what? This is what they have. This is their job. And, they're going home then to their own families. And it must leave a scar. It must leave a scar. I expect that jury will be excused jury service for the rest of their lives. And I hope they're offered some sort of counselling, because it's been harrowing enough for us. And we've only been reading about it. Preston Davey was betrayed by the people who should have loved and cared for him. Detective Chief Inspector Andy Fallows of Lancashire Police has spoken after high school teacher Jamie Varley, 37, was found guilty of the murder and sex assault of the adopted 13-month-old. His partner, John McGowan Fazakerley, 32, was convicted of allowing the death of a child and sex abuse. So this is Detective Andy Fallows, and it's a good result for them, of course, but yeah, harrowing. You can't, once you've seen those videos, you can't unsee them. So DCI Fallows says, this investigation, whilst it is hugely sad, has been to try and get justice for a little boy who has been grossly mistreated by the 2 people who should have loved and cared for him. It's the greatest misplacement of trust. They have betrayed him. The child has been cruelly treated, and it's wicked. There's no other word for it. It is wicked. It is evil. Evil walks this world. And it thing is, you believe in God. I do believe in God, but you have to believe in the devil. And if you believe in one, you can't believe in one without the other. And the devil acts through people like Varley and GF. And they are like people who hide in plain sight. They're people with good jobs, presentable, likable, social circle, but inside monsters. Any investigation involving the death of a child is harrowing enough. But when you see the circumstances behind this and what's happened to that little boy over that 4-month period, that he was in the care of Jamie Varley and John McGowan Fazakerley, it's really difficult not to be affected by that. Good God. And a prosecutor who worked on bringing the couple who abused their adopted baby to justice, has been reacting to today's verdicts. Karen Tong of the Crown Prosecution Service said, "This is one of the most shocking and horrific cases I have dealt with in my career. Jamie Varley and John McGowan Fazakerley had a responsibility to care for and protect baby Preston. They violated that responsibility, and 13-month-old Preston was abused with sickening ease." And she added, "It's difficult to comprehend how the very people who should have loved him could inflict such sickening physical and sex harm on an innocent child. No child should have to go through what Preston went through in the last 4 months of his short life, and I cannot begin to imagine the toll this has taken on those who loved Preston. My thoughts remain with them all." So now somebody just said there in chat, I think it was Michelle, that now, we talked about it, didn't we, in a video? Hey, Joanne. Hi, Joanne. Good result. Guilty on all charges. So apparently I'm going to try and find some video or whatever. Maybe the family will actually speak out and we can see it. But yeah, remember the video that I did about Preston's biological mother? It's there on my channel. I try and remember to share it in the description. Of course, I always forget to do things, don't I? But Preston's biological mum, when she was just a teenager, she killed, along with a friend of hers. I think there was drugs involved. She was obviously, I don't know what the full circumstances were, but we'll probably find out. But they killed an old lady, a lady called Lily, and not only killed her, but tortured her. They put her body in a bin and they wheeled her off and dumped her in the river. And I say I did do a video about it. Let's find this video. Now, she went to prison. She got a life sentence. But, of course, because she was so young, she didn't serve her full life sentence. She was released out on parole. But then she broke her parole conditions or whatever, so she was put back in prison. So I don't know the full story, but, she did a very bad thing. I mean, we can't shy away from that. She did do a terrible thing. Can I find it? Just finding the video. We talked about it when I was doing the video, is that can people be forgiven when they do these terrible crimes when they're so young, like Jamie Bulger's killers? It's very difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. It wasn't, as I say, small crimes, of course it can be forgiven. When you're a child and you do things like shoplifting or even drug offences or whatever. But the brutal murder that Preston's mum did, well, we have to wait until we find out the full details. But you just think, no, it's... let me have a look for the video so I can show it you. Oh, it's a dilemma, isn't it? Can you forgive people terrible things that they do when they're so young? And we don't know her backstory. You know, she was clearly addicted to drugs. Oh my God. Do you know, I don't know, life is full of conundrums, isn't it? Full of conundrums. Anyway, she's out of prison now. But of course, is that the reason? Is that the reason why she could not, because Preston was removed from his family immediately after he was born, really? And is that why? Can't find the bloody video. Can't find the video. Can't find it. But anyway, let's try another search. Is that why Preston was taken away from her? So sad. We'll find out, I expect. No, it's not coming up, but I definitely did a video on it, so no idea why not. Right, what have we got here? So, where am I going to find? Right, here we go. So where am I? Am I still sharing this? Yeah, so there's been an update from Sky News. Hey, Jacqueline. Drugs were the reason you saw on Facebook. It could have been drugs, yeah. Yeah, I think their days are definitely numbered in prison there, Jacqueline, and it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, I don't want to, I wouldn't want to wish anything bad on anybody, but to be honest, if you read tomorrow that something had happened to him, you wouldn't be sorry. It'd be difficult to feel any sympathy, wouldn't it? And honestly, my curiosity is with Jamie's family and John GF's family. What do they think of it? Are they going to go and visit them in prison now that Jamie Varley's mum knows what he did to her grandchild? The grandchild she was dangling on her knee and singing to just a couple of hours before he died. What is she going to do? Go and visit them? Go and visit him? I just couldn't. I know I couldn't. I'm sorry. I think there are a lot of things you can forgive your son or daughter for, but not this. Not what he's done to this baby. You couldn't forgive it. How could you? You just couldn't. How could you even look him in the face? I'd almost want to put him out of his misery myself. It's like, just bloody hell. Anyway, so according to Sky News then, and so don't forget to sign the petition. So I did put the link to the petition. There's a petition out there to investigate social services because they bear a responsibility for this as well. So the care of the baby boy is to be investigated after the adoption ended with a sickening murder. Oldham Council says it will investigate the handling of Preston Davey's case. I just think all the red flags were ignored, weren't they? The council has issued a statement after Jamie Varley, 37, was found guilty of the murder and sex abuse of the 13-month-old boy who he adopted with John McGowan Fazakerley, 32. Now, the other sad thing about this, because there'd be gay couples out there who have adopted and who are brilliant parents, and they're going to get the flack for this as well. You know, people are going to start thinking bad of all same-sex couples that adopt children. I think that's important to remember. You know, these are bad people, not because they're gay, but because they're bad. But there'll be gay couples out there. They're going to get flack for this. They're going to get flack because of what these two did. Preston was taken from his mother by the council through an emergency care order prior to his eventual adoption by Varley and McGowan Fazakerley. A child safeguarding practice review, launched by the authority after Preston's death, was paused during criminal proceedings investigating his abuse and murder, and the review will examine the handling of Preston's safeguarding, according to the council. Look at him. Look at his little face. He's so adorable, this baby. His little orange jumpsuit. An Oldham Council spokesperson said, "The death of any child is a tragedy, but this is a particularly heart-wrenching and disturbing case. We are thankful that the perpetrators of the sickening murder and abuse of an innocent child have today been convicted for their crimes. An independent child safeguarding practice review is already underway, which will examine the handling of Preston's safeguarding. Our thoughts remain with Preston's family, loved ones, and the many people affected by the case." I mean, it's just unbelievable, isn't it? Unbelievable. Let's see what else I can get up here. Oh. And you know, so unnecessary, because surely there were other couples that wanted to adopt Preston who had experience with babies, who would have been much more suited. Why were they allowed to adopt him? You know, why? Oh, look, here's another photo. Let's have a look at this. God, he is a chameleon, Jamie Varley, isn't he? He does look different on virtually every photo that you see of him. You know. So here's the twonk, sorry. Gosh. So see how he's changed. God, he looks so different, doesn't he, on every single photo. Let's have another look at the other photos I've got of him. God, look at that evil face. So this is, look, these could be three different people, couldn't they? So this is Jamie Varley when it first happened, with his sort of, I don't know, short dark hair. Maybe that's his teacher look. Then a year later, there he was, really arrogant with the police. He couldn't believe he hadn't got away with it. I bet it was a big shock for him when he was arrested, because it was quite a long time after, wasn't it? It was a year later before he was arrested. So I expect he thought he'd got away with it. And he was very belligerent with the police in this interview, where he's got the long sort of blonde streaks and the facial hair. And then this is a picture just been released. Oh my God. I think, this is a man who was crying for his mum at the hospital. Mum, I'm going to hell. I've effing killed him. Yeah, you did. And you are. Can't wait for you to go to hell, to be honest. Oh my God. Look at those eyes. It's always in the eyes, isn't it? They're like a shark's eyes. There's nothing in there. There's no emotion. That's the eyes of a man who knows he's going to hell. He is going to hell. Good. Good. So Preston Davey died in July 2023 at the hands of Jamie Varley, who took a year off work to adopt him. So let's not forget, this idiot, he took a year off work from his teaching job where he's head of year at a private school. He took a year off to look after Preston. Or was it that he took a year off so that he could, make the most of abusing Preston for a whole year? It's like shark's eyes, isn't it? Just dead. There's nothing there. What's prison going to make of him? I mean, you'll probably find some other sicko. But quite often sickos like him, they do find other similar people like them, don't they? They find people similar to that have done similar things, and they build friendships. God, what a vile man. Vile Varley. So yeah, he said that Preston had accidentally drowned in a bath, but post-mortem examination discovered he had 40 injuries. And GF guilty of sex assault, child cruelty, and allowing the death of a child. Oh, they're going to be sentenced on Thursday. Now, the sentencing, because in the UK, although trials, of course, can't be televised, the sentencing probably will be televised. So we'll be watching that, that's for sure. I will be watching that. We'll be watching it together. I'm hoping that I'll be able to show it as it's happening. What do you think for a sentence? What do you reckon? They've not been sentenced yet. Joanne, they'll be Thursday, it says. That's good. Sometimes you have to wait quite a long time for a sentence. But that's quick, isn't it? Quick. That's quick. Yeah, Jacqueline, life, but life with what, life can be 15 years or it can be 30 years. What do you think it'll be? Like Varley's been found guilty of murder. Now, GF has not been found guilty of murder, so he's not going to get the same sentence as Varley, is he? He's not going to get. Varley's going to get life, no doubt about it. But, in the UK, life doesn't mean life, does it? 30, you reckon, Jacqueline? I hope so, because when you're taking, so I don't know if they'll give him a sentence for each offence, of course. So hopefully, in all together, it will total 30. Let's hope so. Yeah, I hope he gets 30. It's unusual. Like, if you think about what happened in the Sarah Sharif trial, he got 33 years, didn't he? That the father of Sarah Sharif, he got 33-year sentence. I think that's what he got. So it's probably be similar, will it, for him? And then John GF, he won't. he might not even get 20 years. I don't know. Ay, bless him. Oh, look, it's saying it now. Yeah. Preston's mother, Sarah Davey, now 42, had been jailed at the age of 14 for the murder of a frail pensioner in 1998 and has been in and out of prison since then. In court, his mother and grandmother sobbed. Whose mother? Oh, Preston's mum. Preston's. Why couldn't he have gone to the grandmother? You know? So his mother and grandmother sobbed throughout as the 29 guilty verdicts were returned. Now, the thing we have to remember before we judge Preston's biological mum, she's an addict. She is an addict, so addiction is not something you choose. You know, it's not something you choose. So, apparently, oh, I don't know. God, what a mess, that poor baby. Why couldn't he have gone to the grandmother if they wouldn't let him stay with his mum because she had drug problems? So he was placed with foster parents at 5 days old. And he stayed with them for the first 10 months of his life. Thank God he had 10 months of happiness. You know, it seems like he was looked after well by his foster parents. So thank God, at least Preston had 10 months of being loved. But her grandmother was sick. Her grandma's got cancer. It's very sad, isn't it? Very sad. It's like a conspiracy of events, really. Oh, look, here's bloody GF. Look at him. I think he's chilling, GF. He looks like, to me, the both of them are, let's go back to, look at him. Look at that face. I mean, they are like an unholy alliance, aren't they? You've got this evil twat, sorry, twonk, and this, I know the other evil twonk. He reminds me of, do you know who he reminds me of? I mean, do you know about 10 Rillington Place and Christie? He just gives me that look. He's sort of chilling and he's got that sort of respectable veneer, but he's got, and again, look at his eyes. Eyes tell you everything. I'm going to download these photos and put them on a thing together. They're evil. The photo of these two together, in fact, I might do it now. I wonder if I can download it now. It's like, it reminds me of, Hindley and Brady. These two are going to go to get, those iconic pictures of Brady and Hindley, the Moors murderers. I think these two, they look so evil. They're they go together, don't they? I'm going to do that. Put them together. They'll always be associated together, but sadly, Preston, little angel Preston, he'll always be associated with them, which is a shame. It's very tragic. Right, while I'm waiting for that to load up, let's have a look. Oh no, it's coming up now. Sentences they're going to get. We've had one person saying 30 years. Let me know what you think. What sort of, do you think it'll be as much as 30 years? You know, in Britain, the life sentences, they're shy, aren't they? I know they're minimum sentences. And just even if somebody gets 18 years, it doesn't mean to say they'll be released. After 18 years, it means that's the first time they can be considered for parole. But you know, they're not that old. Don't forget, Zachary, GF, he's only 32 now. So if he got 30 years, he'd still have a life when he came out, because he'd be 62 if he was released. You know, so it's time for him to have some life. And Preston only got 13 months of life, 4 months of which were were being abused by them. So, you know, I think all that should be taken into account personally. You know, Preston was 13 months old. He didn't even get 2 years of life. And if you think that people know, let's say people live to the 70s or whatever, all those 60 odd years that he's been denied, in my opinion, they should have taken away from them. They should never be released. Never, ever be released, in my opinion. But anyway, there you go. Who am I? Who am I? Nobody. You know, the powers that be. They make the decisions, don't they? Like the Oldham City Council deciding that these two men who've never had a baby before. You know what? I know you can't say it, but I feel like I'd only have to look at Varley and GF and think, no, you're not having a baby. You know, you just feel like looking at them, they look like shits, to be honest. But I suppose you can't base it on just looking at them. But it's a shame. You know, and I do have this reservation. I feel like they were given Preston because they're gay. That's what I think, to fill some sort of diversity quota. Anyway, I hope they do have a full investigation. I hope they do, as to how these people, these horrible men, who said themselves, to be fair, they had no experience with babies, said it themselves on several occasions. So why were they given a baby? Why? Just mad, isn't it? Right, I'm putting a picture together. I'm going to put them together. I can upload it. Oh, God. They look even scarier, to be honest, than Hindley and Brady. I'm going to put this picture together and then upload it. Vile people. Horrible, horrible. Yeah. Horrible, horrible. These are the faces that little Preston had to look at every day. These are the faces that little Preston was looking at, relying, and they just, didn't give a shit. Didn't give a shit about him. He was just a plaything to them. You might as well bought him in Ann Summers or some sex shop. You know, he was just like a little toy to play with, to amuse them, wasn't he? Sorry, I'm just looking through the chat now, making sure you're okay. Right, I'm going to upload this picture now. I think they will eventually, the picture of these two together, it will be like bloody Ian Brady and Myra Hindley. Just the faces of evil, double evil. Double evil. Is it? What a vile man. Yeah. So if you look at this picture of the two of them together, can I? And that's what Preston had to look at every day for 4 months while they abused him. Vile, horrible, horrible people. Ugh. God, I think you can really, we say it often, don't we, on the channel? Eyes, the windows to the soul. They haven't got one. They have not got a soul. Shark's eyes, just cold, arrogant, just can't believe they've been caught. Thought that, just a baby, the baby can't talk, so we can do what the hell we want with him. And he keeps bouncing back. They left him on the bed there, gasping for breath, because before he'd bounced back from their abuse. And they thought he would bounce back again, didn't they? And he didn't this time. That little baby, he just gave up. Probably just couldn't face another day's abuse. And I like to think that God hopefully came down and took him, a bit like Sarah Sharif. It was the same in the end. Her little body just gave up. They just give up. They just can't take any more abuse. This tiny little baby. Let's have a look. So this was that photo, wasn't it, of them taking him to the hospital. Bloody drama queen, Varley, in his Jurassic Park t-shirt and his Rupert the Bear tartan trousers. He's a man in his late 30s. On Snapchat. Just a child in his head, so immature, screaming for his mum. And there's little Preston, limp as anything. He was already dead. 100%. That baby was dead. And he was dead because they just left him to die. They could have saved him if they would have taken him to the hospital immediately. But they couldn't, could they? Because of what Varley had done to him. First of all, they had to get whatever, they had to make him sick. So that whatever Varley had put in his stomach, he could get it out. He was scooping vomit out of his mouth, making him sick. So while this baby couldn't breathe, instead of rushing him to the hospital, he was squeezing his stomach like a toothpaste to make him sick, to get out of him whatever he put in there. And that baby died because of what he did to it, but also because he was not taken to the hospital immediately. And then by the time he got there, he's dead. You can see a mile off that he's dead. And they managed to get his pulse back, I think twice, faint pulse. But they just couldn't get him back. He'd been gone too long. That's why. He'd been dead too long. If they would have taken him immediately, they may have been able to resuscitate him. So remember, John GF said that when he went into the house, Preston was sitting up. Absolute bollocks. There was no way he was sitting up when he walked into the house. He was dead already. Been lying there for an hour, breathing his last. He took a video of it, Varley. So the jury will have seen that video, remember? That, God, how distressing. He'd been lying there for an hour while they were texting about the kayak that they were trying to sell. Dear me, vile, vile men. I do think this is the worst, and I've covered some horrible cases, but I think this is the worst case that I have covered. John GF just looks chilling to me as well. Anyway. Oh, horrible, horrible people. So I'm going to have a look in a minute at the mother's story. Hey, David. Yeah. He does look different in every photo, doesn't he, Joanne? He's like a chameleon. But he's like, yeah, he is like a chameleon. Because, psychopaths are a bit like that, aren't they? They do look different on all their photos. I think he is a psychopath. Or a sociopath. I mean, I don't know enough technical things to know the difference properly. But, when you look at killers like Ted Bundy and they do look different on all their photos. Even their eyes change colour, because they've got so many multiple personalities inside him. I don't know. Because don't forget, this is a man who was head of year at school. So he could put on, a respectable front. And the other one, John GF, he had this brilliant job where he was dealing with multi-million-pound accounts for some bank, so they can put on a respectable, veneer, can't they? And that's what psychopaths do, of course. They put on respectable veneers, and that's how people are taken in by them. Let's see. So, yes, it says here, Varley stood in the dock and put his hands to his face in shock as the guilty verdicts were read out. Then he collapsed to his knees, retching and vomiting. GF did not react, but his father, who was watching from the gallery, shook his head. Yeah, never mind shaking your head. That's your son that did these terrible things. Have you watched the trial? Have you been there at the trial, seen the videos, heard the evidence? That's your son. Look what you brought into the world. And yeah, GF did not react because he is as cold as ice. So yeah, Detective Chief Inspector Andy Fellows said they were pure evil. For the first 9 months of his life, Preston was a happy and healthy child, but by the end he was a broken shell. And this was due to the sordid and wicked acts of Varley and GF. So, let's see if there's anything here. So there's an investigation happening as to how they were allowed to have him. So that's good, I suppose. Now I'm going to try and find out. This is another horrible case, Oh, God, what a mess. And the lady that she murdered was called Lily. And Sarah Davey, Preston's biological mum, let's have a look at it. So this happened in Failsworth in Manchester. Let's have a look. I don't know if Sarah is going to come out and say anything. I suppose because of her history, she's probably wanted to, keep a low profile. It's a right mess, isn't it? It's a right mess. So this is a news item from the ITV News about Sarah. Unspeakably wicked schoolgirl who brutally tortured and murdered a grandmother is released from jail. This was in 2024. And there she's got Preston's eyes, or Preston's got her eyes. Sarah Davey from Failsworth in Manchester was just 14 when she and her 15-year-old friend Lisa Healy befriended Lily and brutally murdered her at the pensioner's home. The pair tortured the 71-year-old by squirting shampoo in her eyes, cutting her with a knife, and tying a gag around her mouth so tightly. Now, I just want to warn you, this is horrible. They tied a gag around her mouth so tightly that her dentures were forced down her throat at her house on West Street in Oldham. They then put her body in a bin and walked it through the streets of Failsworth before throwing Lily in the Rochdale Canal. Oh my God. Then, after the killing, Davey and Healy made hundreds of calls from Lily's phone, and they used Lily's pension money to buy crisps and chocolate. And in 1999, Davey was handed an undeterminate sentence by a judge who described the murder as unspeakably wicked. What a mess. What a mess. Poor Lily. Poor Lily. So we've got, Lily, of course, was vulnerable for her old age. And, those two young girls tortured her, one of which was Preston's mum. Ugh. And then, of course, she's ended up having Preston. Preston's been taken off her immediately within a couple of days of him being born. And now this has happened to poor little Preston. Tell you that, sometimes the world is cruel, isn't it? The world is cruel. Very cruel. So now, at the end of the day, Preston's mum, she was only 14, I suppose, at the time, but this is going back now to what I'm saying about like Jamie Bulger and his murderers. Should we feel sorry for them just because they were young when they did it? I mean, that is, that's not just stealing an old lady's handbag or even attacking her and stealing a handbag. That is torture. That is, how would you do that? Even if you were high on drugs, how could you squirt shampoo in an old lady's eyes? Well, to them, she was old, 71, of course. The nearer you come to 71, the less old it seems. But yeah, so she's not young, is she? And they were young, strong girls befriending her. She was probably lonely. She was probably grateful to have some young company around. Squirted shampoo in her eyes, cut her with a knife, tied a gag around her mouth so tightly her dentures were forced down her throat, put her in a bin, walked it through the streets of Failsworth and dumped her in the Rochdale Canal. Now, well, we can, you can make your own mind up whether you think that Preston's mum, because she was so young. And I'm a big believer in forgiving. People do daft things when they're teenagers, but they do things like shoplifting, or even sort of drug stuff, or even gang stuff. But it's, fighting between themselves and stuff. But talk to them, no matter what drugs you're on. I don't know what Sarah's backstory is. Maybe, she had a terrible childhood. I don't know, but lots of people have terrible childhood. They don't go out and do that to pensioners, do they? So I'm really at the end of the day, Lily. She was Lily. So she went to prison. And then she was released from prison on the 23rd of March 2024. And since March 2013, she's been released from prison on license 7 times. In 2013, she was freed from Askham Grange Women's Prison near York after serving 14 years behind bars, and she moved back to Greater Manchester and was living just 2 miles from the scene of the killing. But that same year, she was behind bars again after testing positive for using cocaine, breaching the terms of her licence. And each time she was released from prison after that, she was recalled for breaching the terms of her licence. In 2022, the parole board rejected her release for an 8th time, and at a hearing it was revealed that she had the opioid painkiller Subutex in her system. On her release earlier this year, the parole board said she was allowed out following an oral hearing. So at some point she was released and she managed to get pregnant and have a baby, which was Preston, but Preston was taken off her almost immediately. So poor Preston, he just didn't stand a chance, did he? Really, bless. You can see Preston in her eyes, can't you? So in full, a spokesperson for the board said in a statement, "We can confirm that a panel of the parole board has directed the release of Sarah following an oral hearing. Parole board's decisions are solely focused on what risk a prisoner could represent to the public if released, and whether that risk is manageable in the community." Well, I'm sure she would no longer be a risk to the community, but she was a big risk to Lily, wasn't she? A panel will carefully examine a huge range of evidence, including details of the original crime and any evidence of behaviour change, as well as explore the harm done and impact the crime has had on the victims. Members read and digest hundreds of pages of evidence and reports in the lead up to an oral hearing. Evidence from witnesses such as probation officers, psychiatrists and psychologists, officials supervising the offender in prison, as well as victim personal statements may be given at the hearing. Parole reviews are undertaken thoroughly and with extreme care. Protecting the public is our number one priority. So she's got another child because it says she was released from prison in 2009, shortly after having a child behind bars, and she was provided with a new identity. Oh, that's Healy. That's the other person, the other girl that was involved, not Sarah. Okay. Hey, so what do we think of all this? I mean, it's a mess, isn't it? And you know what? The one that's suffered for all of it is Preston. So I'm going to go back to Sky News. Bless his little face. Bless his little face. Look at him. God, God, God. This little boy never stood a chance, did he? Bless him. Right, wait a sec, I've just got to answer this. Okay, so that's number one son. I've got to go and get him. He was supposed to be having a drink, but there's electricity failure and all the lights are out in the bars and all the bars are closed. Disaster. Okay, so anyway, there's more going to come out here, isn't there? A lot more. So there's an investigation. It would, but you know, it's how can I put this? So it's a good result, of course. It's a good verdict, but it doesn't bring this little baby back, does it? But so it's just saying here on Sky News that Lily invited those two girls into her home for a cup of tea and they brutally tortured her. Wonder why they did that. What was that about? What was that about? Anyway, so yeah, I've got to go. So, but there'll be more coming out. I expect there'll be interviews with the family, this, that, and the other. Let's see if there's anything on there on X yet. It's a good result, but yeah, doesn't bring Preston back. But you know what? It's a very good result. Very good result. Guilty on all charges. Good. You know, but we weren't sure that we were going to get it, and the longer it went on, we didn't know, you know, whether we were or not. But anyway, so I've got to go. I want to thank Louise for the super sticker. Thank you so much. Take care, all of you. Look after yourselves. Do something nice for you. We all need some TLC after this horrible case, don't we? And yeah, justice for Preston. Bless his little heart. Just hope, you know, he literally is in the hands of angels now. Let's hope so. So tomorrow night is the vigil. So I will be covering that. So look out for a notification for the vigil. Don't forget to subscribe, please, and press notifications. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Bye.